Got it. I pressed got it. I hope you do too. Thank you, Wanda. Thank you to the Colorado Senior Planet team. My name is Larissa Johnson. I am the Residential Energy Program Manager in Montgomery County for the Department of Environmental Protection, and we are helping to bring this program to you today. Hello, and I have been spotlighted, so you get to see my entire house now. Well, not the whole house, but you know what I mean, just the room I'm in. Anyway, as the Residential Energy Program Manager, it is my job to make sure that residents have information to help them lower their energy costs, keep money in their pockets, switch to renewable energy options such as electric vehicles and solar projects, and to make sure that they are connected to all the resources that we have. I know not everyone here is in Montgomery County, so welcome. We are glad you are here. Joyce is going to provide you with an amazing presentation about electric vehicles. She has owned an electric vehicle for the last 10 years. She's owned quite a few. She started off with the Nissan Leaf and now has a Tesla. So she'll be able to answer some questions and talk to you about this. Now, literally, Joyce is the person I go to for all electric vehicle questions that I have, and I've been doing this work for quite a long time. So I'm so excited that she is here to share all of her information with you. If you have questions, I'm sorry, and where is Montgomery County? Montgomery County, Maryland. Good question, Barb. Yeah, we are in Maryland. So the website that I just put into our chat is a program that's happening right now in Montgomery County, Maryland, called February. And so what we're trying to do this year and what you're here to do is learning how to kick gas. And one of the ways that we can kick gas is by going electric with electric vehicles. I'm also just going to put in one more resource. It's Montgomery Energy Connection. This is your link to all things energy saving, specifically for Maryland, but all of our tips and tricks are going to be accessible to anyone, anywhere in the country. And something that we do provide as part of February are light bulb exchanges. So unfortunately, if you are not in Montgomery County, you probably aren't able to get to one of our light bulb exchanges, which happen in collaboration with local breweries, but maybe you can contact your environmental protection agency and see if they can do some fun programs as well. So without further ado, I am going to pass it over to Joyce. So thank you all for being here. If you have any questions, feel free to add them to the chat.
Thanks, Larissa. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to take a moment to share my screen, and hopefully this will all work as previously practiced. So let's get going here. And let's see, and we'll put that in. Okay, hopefully you're just seeing the front page of the presentation. I'm getting some thumbs up there, so that's good. So today, like I said, we're talking about electric vehicles, and I'm taking this. Their normal now is actually, I sort of stole that from another entity who's using that, and I can't agree more heartily in most situations. I will put that caveat in there. I'm Joyce Breiner. I'm executive director of a small nonprofit called Poolesville Green, which I co-founded 10 years ago. And the CCP behind my name stands for Climate Change Professional, and that's as designated by the state of Maryland and the Association of Climate Change Officers. Like Larissa said, I've been driving electric for 10 years. The picture behind me is actually from about 2014. The red vehicle was my first vehicle. The other one, the gray one there, was a plug-in hybrid Volt, which we got about a year after. And then we added solar right about in the middle of that. And that solar powers the electric vehicles from our household. So I wanted to start out by asking a question, and maybe you can put some things in chat. I'm not following the chat, but maybe some of the monitors can help me out with some of the responses. But in 1900, if you were going to open a business, which one of the two there would you consider opening? A gas station or a livery stable? And I'll just, any Wanda, are you seeing any kind of replies on that?
The livery station.
A livery station.
Stable. Livery stable. I was putting them together.
Okay. Well, Here's something to think about. This is a picture from 1900, New York Avenue, Fifth Avenue, New York City, on Easter morning. And in that picture, there is one automobile, which happened to be circled in red there. Everything else is horse and buggy. Very busy day, very busy morning. And just 13 years later, we had a complete flip. And there's actually a horse in there. It's not circled, but I believe I'm going to use if you see my pointer, it's right about there. I think that's the only horse in the picture. So in a matter of just 13 years, there was a complete swap in transportation, at least in the urban areas, like New York City. So why go EV? What's interesting about what's all this about? So one is a better ownership experience. They're fun to drive. You don't get that that sort of jerkiness with the changing of the gears and things like that. It's an easy operation. Drive and go. Put brake and stop, that kind of thing. There's no shifting. There's none of that. They're more efficient. They're a lot more efficient. In fact, I just heard an example. If you spend $1 on gasoline or $1 on energy, let's put it $1 on energy in a gasoline vehicle, you only get 30% or only 30 cents of that dollar actually propels the vehicle forward. The rest of it is wasted in heat or whatever. But in electricity, it's about 80% or even 90% efficient, depending on the electric vehicle you're driving. Prices are starting in the low 30s. We'll talk more about that at the end. The main battery life, most batteries are going to last you at least 10 years. There are some EVs, early EVs out there on the road that are at or over 500,000 miles. The goal is the 1 million mile battery, which I think is not that far off. Another reason for go EV is reduced operating and maintenance costs. It's significant, very significant. On national average, the national average of electricity costs is about 4 cents per mile for electricity, and for gasoline, it fluctuates a lot more, but it's about 12 cents or plus per mile for gasoline. Electricity rates are more stable over time than gasoline. You don't have oil changes. There's no belts, no hoses, no spark plugs, no filters, all that stuff that goes away. The biggest things on maintenance I've found are tires and windshield wipers. And then climate change. Climate change is a big driver for me, and I had a lot to do with my move to electric. Transportation accounts for 29% of US greenhouse gas emissions. And in the county where I live, it's actually as 41%. And here's a couple graphs from EPA that talk about that. The top graph shows the 29%, and then that 29% is broken out in the transportation sector on the pie graph on the bottom. And you'll see that blue, that large blue section, that is the vehicles, they're passenger vehicles and light vehicles that we drive every day. Why EVs? Again, in infrastructure, the outlook and growth, there's an S-curve adoption. When it comes to technology, they talk about S-curve adoptions and exponential growth. And we're starting to see this happen. The graph on the left is a worldwide global sales numbers. And you can see it's starting to go vertical. At 8.3% of all vehicle sales globally are now EV or plug-in hybrid. And nationally, it's a little over 4%. which has changed a lot in the last, 5, 6, 7 years. The graph on the right, if you would lay, those are the different colors are different years, okay? So if you were to lay it out each year next to each other, you would also see that exponential kind of growth from the light blue to the white, to the green, to the blue, to the yellow, and then finally the red. If you would stretch all those out by individual year, you'd see quite a growth there. And so one question we get a lot about is, are EVs cleaner? Are you just getting rid of gas but getting your power from dirty coal powered plants or whatever? And actually there's a lot of great information on that. The Community of Concerned Scientists has been tracking this for a number of years, and they put out every couple of years, they'll put out an update. This graph of the United States in the lower right hand corner there, that shows the grid broken into the regional parts, and each part has a grid mix and a color associated with that grid mix. And the lighter the blue, the more renewable energy, the greener that grid is. If you fast forward to 2021, this data is actually from 2019, and you'll see how very quickly over 10 years that grid has been really greening across the country. This middle slide here with the green, that is showing if you had the most efficient electric vehicle, these would be some numbers, and I'm going to show you a little blow up here of the northeastern United States. So if you're in upstate New York, your grid, if you get an average EV, that equates to and power it off the grid there, it equates to about 255 miles per gallon. In other words, your car, if you had a gasoline car, in order to be as good as the average EV, your gasoline car would have to get 255 miles per gallon. In my area, it's more like 89. So it's sort of, it depends on the region you're in. And then if you have the most efficient EV, there are a few of them out there that are even more efficient than the average, which makes sense. Then that same New York area, you would have to have a gasoline car that got 337 miles per gallon in order to have the same level of efficiency. And the average, you can see in the lower left corner there, the average for US EVs right now is running about 93 mpg as an equivalent. So I wanted to go into charging a little bit. There's a lot of questions we get about charging. There are 3 types of charging. The first is called level 1. It's basically your typical outlet in your garage, your house, 120 volt. It uses a J1772 connector, which I'll show you in a second. This is often referred to by EV owners as trickle charging. The reason is, again, you get 4 miles of range in your car's battery for every hour of charging. You don't see people using that a lot, but it is available. And whenever you buy an EV, there's usually, and there always should be, what we call a travel charger that comes with the car as equipment, just as you would have spare tire in the car. We all used to have spare tires. So now in an electric vehicle, you have a travel charger, and that allows you to plug into an outlet like this. It's most effective for long-term parking situations and things like that, and sometimes used at home depending on, plug-in hybrids. A lot of plug-in hybrids, they don't have a very big battery, so trickle charger works good for them. Level 2 is your 240 volt. I actually don't have the picture of a 240 volt outlet, This is the J1772 connector that you would plug into the car. This connector is used both in the level 1 and level 2 situation. It's often what you see for destination charging, what you'll see in the retail, public infrastructure for charging is what we call level 2. And it's most effective at places where you're going to spend 1 to 3 hours or at home, you know, because most of your charging is going to be done at home. In fact, if you can, if you have the situation where you can charge at home, 95% of your fueling that vehicle will be at home, generally at night while you're sleeping. And then the third level of charging is commercial power. It's 480 volt. It depends on the amperage of the unit, but you can get between 50 to 200 plus miles of range per hour of charging. And there are different connectors. The upper one there, the dark one, is becoming the VHS of the VHS beta example analogy of, you know, what connector is going to win out in the long term. The lower one is called CHAdeMO. Right now, I think there's only one vehicle, the Nissan Leaf has CHAdeMO, and I cannot think of any other new electric vehicles that have CHAdeMO. It's called DC fast charging. Sometimes it's called supercharging in the Tesla world. Tesla has actually a different connector than the J1772. I don't have a picture of that, but it's a lot sleeker and doesn't look as complicated. Full EV capable. These are, you know, the DC fast charging level 3. You're not going to be able to do that kind of charging with a plug-in hybrid for a lot of reasons. We can go into that later if you want, but it's meant for full EVs. It's most effective also in inner city travel and things like that. Okay, so some quick examples of what these things look like. And I mentioned 95% of charging is done at home. So home charging looks like an outlet or the level 2 in the middle there. That happens to be the charger in my garage. There are a number of different brands. We're particularly happy with this Clipper Creek brand. It's an American-made brand, and it's very durable. And then this other example on the right here is the most complex home charging setup that I've seen. This is actually a neighbor of mine, and he has multiple EVs in his family, and so he has this setup, and he can plug in. That's actually the charger. There you can see the plug-in, and that's a Tesla. You can see that plug is what is used in place of the J1772, and then the wire going to the pedestal there. That's actually the Tesla's travel charger plugged in, and they can plug into the 240 volt outlet power. And then how do you find public charging? Where is it? Is there enough of that? Well, EV owners find charging by a number of different methods. And some of these are some of the most popular ones right now. PlugShare is an app and a website. It's crowdsourced. Each of the green placeholders there or place markers are level 2 chargers, and the orange ones are level 3 chargers. So you're really fast ones. If you click on those, then you get a lot of detailed information, and you can find out what it looks like, how much it costs to use it, all that, you know, all that kind of information. A Better Route Planner is another good resource. This one happens to show Tesla supercharging network because the way I have it set up for my phone was, I was looking for Teslas in particular, but I could, set it up if I had a different kind of vehicle that didn't use the Tesla network. I could filter for that, and the same thing with the plug share. You can put all kinds of different filters in it to see what you're looking for in particular. A better route planner is is really good for road trips, and I highly recommend that if you're going to do road trips in an electric vehicle. The right hand situation there with Tesla. This is a screenshot from inside the vehicle, the large picture with the red place markers. Each place marker is a supercharger, and the little numbers within the place markers are the number of charging spots or stalls or parking spaces that are available. And so as owners come in and plug in their car, that number will change. If there was a place marker with 6, car comes in, they plug in, that number will drop to 5. So that you've got real-time information of what's going on there. And then if you click on one of those for more information, you'll get the box there, which we're showing here, Aberdeen, Maryland. It shows 6 stalls are available out of 8 total. It's a 250 kilowatt max system. Some of them are different. Like I said, most of Teslas are moving to at least 250, if not more. You will see a number of 50 kilowatts, which are a good bit slower in non-Tesla networks. For charging fees, that varies around the country and between states and locations. In this particular case, they're charging 31 cents per kilowatt hour. And then if your car is done charging and it's just sitting there, they don't really want you to just sit there. So they are going to charge you an idle fee if the car is done charging and it's just sitting there plugged in. And then it gives you a lot of other information about restaurants and coffee shops and shopping and Wi-Fi and things like that. And then if you want to go to that, you just click the little button on the bottom with the marker right here, and that will navigate you to there. Okay, not too much more here. I just wanted to give you some, if you haven't seen them in your area very much, these are the common look of public charging. The one on the far left is a Semiconnect brand, and there's different ways to access them. You can have a credit card on file, or you can sort of tap it like you do it for payment at a retail location. It depends on the charging network you're using. These happen to be powered in part by the solar panels behind them. Another look is this more solid in the middle at Poolesville, Maryland. These were installed in my community about 7 years ago. And then on the right are examples of what we call the DC fast charging, the L3. The green ones are the Electrify America, which you may be hearing about in the news. The Tesla superchargers have that white and red look. And the one on the far right is a more generic model. Usually those, but they're all usually big and bulky versus the ones on the left of the page there. Less common examples, there's a lot of innovation happening out in the infrastructure arena. And for instance, they might look cute, like at Camden Yards in Baltimore. The one there with the big screen is their business model is that their charging is always free, and they get their revenue by selling advertising. In the one with the Bolt there, the white Bolt, Chevy Bolt, that green thing hanging on the power pole, is a way to install some charging that, the connector will drop down when you enter something into an app, and that keeps the equipment out of the way of the snow and things like that in the winter. And then Electrify America has these solar powered stations as well. So we're getting close to the end here. Another question, 1895 was to 1915 as 2010 will be to, what's your guess? 2025, 2045? So to think about that, you got to think about how the transition is going to happen. So gas stations of today and repair shops of today, they may become like livery stables or harness makers. Dealerships, the dealership model may or may not survive. That's yet to be seen. Gasoline again, like gas stations, it will that may not be as much in demand as it was. And feedback loops, we're in a disruption. We're basically in a technological disruption. Feedback loops accelerate that disruption. And interestingly enough, a pandemic can accelerate. And that can create, that's actually not a feedback loop, but these things feed on each other is what I'm trying to say. Another example of a disruption was people moving to cell phones. And that happened a lot quicker than people initially thought when cell phones first came on the market. Economics drives the change of disruption. So like things, like a lot of, look at big flat screen TVs. They were much more expensive earlier days. Now they're much more affordable, so everybody's changed over to them. And societal choices do matter, and technology alone is not enough to achieve net zero emissions. So if we're going to worry about the planet, if we're going to address the issue of climate change, we can't just talk about these changes. We have to make a societal choice to make that change. So, and that can actually affect that date up there at the top that you might fill in at the blank. So that's brings me to the end. Some of these are hot links. So as we discuss, we can tap into them and I can show you a little more. We have a number of events that Poolesville Green's involved in showcasing electric vehicles. We have the largest EV owner showcase actually in the nation in September. If you're looking for an EV showcase near you, two great resources are Drive Electric Earth Day .org and or driveelectricweek.org. One is in April, one is mostly in September. And there's some other things there. A great resource also, if you're on social media at all, Facebook user groups or owner groups are really valuable. You can get some really good information from just pick a make and model, and there's probably an owner group on Facebook, and they share ideas, they share challenges, and that works out really well overall. You can make some good connections there. And then the last thing I want to show you and expose you to is this called the EV info sheet. It's put out by an organization I'm tied closely with here in the Maryland region called the Electric Vehicle Association of Greater Washington, D.C. There are a number of these kinds of resources on the web. We update this one usually once or twice a year. It's a two-page thing. One side is electric, the other side is plug-in hybrid, talks about charging and incentives and things like that. Another great resource for information by state is put out by the Department of Energy, the AFDC, that's the Alternative Fuel Data Center. You can get lots of information there. You can do vehicle searches there. You can do charging searches there, all kinds of things. So that does it for my presentation, and I'm happy to entertain some questions.
There's quite a bit. Looks like Donna will take yours, Donna, and then we'll go to the chat. Donna
Oh,
V.
okay. Hello. Yes, just a quick question. If you don't drive your car for a while, an electric vehicle, and it sits, say like you're on vacation, or it sits 10 days, 14 days, do you lose any of that charge, or what effect does that have?
Yeah, you can. There are some features on some cars that will draw a little bit more energy than others. And turning off those features is probably a good practice. If you can trickle charge, that's a great situation where you might want to consider trickle charging. There have been situations I'm aware of where people have taken their car to the airport and they've let it sit for 2 weeks or whatever. But you have to know, what did they arrive at the airport? You know, what was what was the state of charge of their battery when they got there? Was it near full, or was it, less than, was it 25% full? That kind of thing. That can make a difference in whether or not it'll make it like the 2 weeks kind of thing. But yeah, trickle charging is probably a great idea in that situation if you're going to leave your car sit for days.
No, I was thinking more of a place like the airport situation, or somewhere where you couldn't leave it plugged in.
Yeah. Now, in some cases, you'll find an outlet, like a 110, 120 outlet, like a wall outlet in a garage in the basement or something, and you can plug in there. I would not, I don't think it's a good practice to use the level 2 charging infrastructure. If you're going to sit there for 2 weeks, you're holding up a charger that someone may really need to use to get home. And so I would not plan on that, but I don't know that the airports have exactly figured out some of that yet. So that's an area of growth, let's say.
Thank you.
Ron, I see your hand raised, but I'm gonna go to a couple of questions in the chat first, and then I'll come right back to you. Elma Floor is asking, what is livery?
Oh, livery.
Livery, I'm sorry.
A stable for horses.
Oh, okay. All right. And then the next question is, your opinion of PHEV hybrid versus all electric?
That's a great question. The whole EV market has been changing very rapidly over the last 5-6 years. And so I really think it depends a lot on your needs and your needs, your travel habits, the setting. Are you in an urban setting or a rural setting? Do you have access to charging or don't you? So that's an individual question, but in general, and I actually saw a really great YouTube show about this just a couple of days ago. And I think, in my opinion, if you can afford a full electric, I think that's the way to go. I think the plug-in hybrids do definitely serve a market where, maybe you don't have access to regular charging or something like that. And it can give you a sense of comfort to have the gasoline vehicle. The problem is you've got all the maintenance that goes with a gasoline vehicle, plus all the stuff that goes with the electric, which is a lot less complicated. But you're basically you're maintaining two systems, And for instance, when we first got the red leaf behind my one shoulder there, that was all electric, and it's a very simple user interface in the car. And when we got the Volt, while we like the Volt, and I highly recommend the Volt, it was very complicated as compared to the user interface in the driver's seat, and all the buttons and everything was very much more complicated than the Leaf, than the full electric Leaf. So I think there's a place for them. I think that place is pretty quickly going away. And I think, in my personal opinion, in 3, 4, 5 years, it will become more and more difficult to sell as a used car, to sell anything with a gasoline engine in it. That includes a plug-in hybrid, because the electrics are coming, and they're coming fast. So, it really depends, I think, on what you're comfortable with. But our experience with the Volt is the first Volt, the most charge you could get, the most range you could get out of it was about 30, well, on a good day, 35 miles. Good weather and everything, you get more than that, but that's another issue. And it was just not quite enough. And when they had the Generation 2 Volt come out, they had bumped that up to 53 miles. And that was great, because we could do a lot of commuting, we could do a lot of running of errands, and in a day, most people don't drive as much in a day as they might think they do. And so that was really perfect. And we were almost never putting gas in it. The problem is gas goes stale. So every once in a while, regardless of whether you needed to or not, the engine would run, because it was stirring up, it was using the old gas up. So you have to think about that. And
Thank you. Ron Millen.
Yes, hi, thank you. I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland. I live in a high-rise apartment building. Maryland has instituted a law that we have to provide for charging of vehicles, electric vehicles, in our underground garage. However, we are really concerned about the safety aspects of fire associated, the intense fire associated with EV batteries, and how we're not sure what we're going to do. If we don't do anything, we're in violation of the law. If we follow the law, we're putting the whole building in a safety situation.
Sure, I actually have something I wanted to bring up on that. Let me see if I can bring it up here without, I'm having a little trouble with there we go, now I can see it. Let me see if I can get to, okay. So this has been a hot topic for a lot of people lately. And we have, and you have to understand, you got the mainstream media, any media, left, right, middle, I don't care. If they're not experts on EVs, I have to take a grain of salt with what they say. And so the thing is, a specific, an issue with a specific make and model on fires became, in the social media world and in the mainstream media world, became a problem for all EVs. So in the Chevy Volt, or I'm sorry, the Chevy Bolt with a B, had an issue with runaway fires, and and Chevy, in my personal opinion, did not handle this very well. They sort of tried to, and I think part of it was they were trying to figure out what the issues were. They were trying to work with their battery manufacturer to figure it out. They finally have it figured out. They finally are doing the right thing, and they are either taking the vehicles back, or they are replacing replacing the batteries, and the owners are getting brand new batteries. Like, it would be like getting a brand new engine in your car, and as a replacement, in dealing with the problem. So in some circumstances, we were seeing garage owners of parking garages restrict bolts from parking in those garages, and then it got muddled about, and there were some places that were restricting all EVs. And that is not the correct thing, because not all EVs spontaneously combust. This was a battery problem with a specific make and model of vehicle. And so you're going to have your edge cases with accidents and things like that. But in general, gasoline vehicles are more dangerous with regards to fires than electric vehicles. And
So as a follow-up, a gasoline fire can be put out with a current sprinkler system. An EV battery burns so hot that it requires 6,000 gallons of water not to put it out, but to bring it to a temperature such that it can be disconnected. That puts everybody in a high-rise building at risk of a fire affecting the whole building. So it's an accident waiting to happen.
Well, as I say, I think I would encourage you to do more research on battery fires in electric vehicles, and also do research on gasoline fires in vehicles. And yes, there is, firefighters are learning more and getting better at dealing with these things. But I think, it's like throwing out the baby with the bathwater. I think it warrants some more investigation before we get too concerned about it.
I agree with you, and that's what we're doing, but one baby is one baby too many. So that's our major concern, being in a high-rise apartment building. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. We have quite a few questions in the chat, and I'm sorry, we may not be able to get through all of these. I'm gonna try to get through as many as we can. And I do see, I think it's C.A. Onada who has your hand raised, and I'll get to you also. But I want to try to get to some of these questions in the chat. Sandra Chapman are asking the question. She has a few in here. How many hours does it take to get a full charge? What about the wait to charge? And maybe you've answered some of these already. Distance between charging stations, cost to charge. How long does it take or speed to use a charge? Maybe you've already addressed those.
Yeah, some of them I addressed. You might have to help me out.
Okay.
There's a lot there.
Yeah. So the first one was, how many hours does it take to get a full charge?
Okay, so it's like the same. It's like, how full is the battery to start with? Okay. When you're riding around and it's a paradigm shift. When you're riding around in your gasoline car, sometimes you stop at the gas station. Is a convenient time to stop. You might be half a tank and you fill up, or you might be down to 1/10 of a tank and you fill up. So the time to put that gasoline is going to take longer. It'll take longer to charge a car. I know that doesn't answer your question, but if with the level 2 charging, which is what most infrastructure is, it depends on the vehicle and it depends on the charger. Without getting too complicated, that range is, like I said, anywhere between about 20 miles an hour of charging to 60 in the level 2 situation, not the superchargers, not the highway chargers, but So you want to have, generally that's why people generally charge at night when they're sleeping, because, it's like, you don't have to wait around for it to charge. People waiting around for their car to charge, EV owners do other things while their car is charging. So, so the short answer is it varies. I think, I know you're looking for, it depends on how big the battery is. I can get a full charge on my Tesla, which is 325 miles of range. If I were to charge it all the way up from very low, from say 10% battery, that would probably take me, I'm going to guess about 8 to 10, well, no, 7 or 8 hours. Okay. And that, so I want to back up a little bit. My charger at home gives me about 25 miles of range per hour. So for 4 hours is 100 miles, 8 hours is 200 miles. Okay. So that might give you an idea. A lot of the L2s are about 25 miles of range per hour of charging. So in the other situation on the highway, I can't get back to the car quick enough. It'll be done before I'm done. It's done before I go to the bathroom and get my snack and get back in the car. And that's usually maybe 20 minutes to put on, 200 miles or so, 15, 20 minutes. What was the next one?
I'm gonna go to another question here.
Okay.
How do EVs perform on snow and ice?
They're heavy, so they actually do very well. That was an interesting question for us in particular when we got the Tesla the first year. We were curious about how it would work, and it actually handled very well. It's a very stable vehicle. Most of the electric vehicles have what they call a skateboard setup, where the battery is in the bottom of the car, and it's usually balanced front to back. And not all of them are, but most of them are. And so it's a very stable, and your center of gravity is low, which leads to that stability. So it's we haven't had any issues.
Okay, thank you.
Now I'm not running around the mountains with 8 inches of snow either every day. So
Yeah.
But find the Facebook group in your area.
Thank you. Right. C.A. Onada, you have your hand raised if you want to mute yourself.
Oh, yeah. I asked this in the chat as well, but I have a friend who said that disposal of the batteries from EVs are going to be a huge environmental problem. Is that true?
This is another question we hear a lot about. Keep in mind that just as EVs are not being developed in a vacuum, neither is battery recycling. And so by the time we get to where we need a lot of battery recycling, there are really some coming online now, options where the battery is going to be recycled. Keeping in mind that these will not go into landfills. The reason they won't go into landfills and such is because the materials within the batteries are too valuable to throw away. So there's been a lot of, you do hear that argument or that concern quite a bit. I think it will, innovation breeds innovation. And this is what we're seeing happen in general.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Emma Flor, I see your hand raised. I'm gonna go to the chat real quick and I'll come back to you. Someone was asking about insurance. Is there a big difference between insuring a gas versus an electric vehicle?
I I think that depends on the person's driving habits and the insurance company you're dealing with. Our experience was that our insurance actually went down. I don't know if that's because we were getting older or I think it was probably a little bit of both, to be honest with you. It's some people have had trouble finding insurance that they're happy with and others not. We haven't had any issues personally. And so if you're not happy, you know, if you go to your agent and you say, I'm going to get this XY model of EV, you know, what's your rate going to be? And you don't like that, I'd shop. I would really shop around and not hesitate to do so. Interestingly, Tesla, they have a lot of data they collect with regard to how the vehicles are operated and being operated. And they are rolling out their own insurance program across the nation. I think they're in 3 states now. So that will be interesting to see if that filters over into other makes and models as we move forward.
Great, thank you. Alma Floor, if you want to mute yourself.
Thank you. Is in questions about if the battery is done, no more charge available, does that mean the car is done? Or how can you, replacing the battery, is that something that you do, like you replace a battery in a flashlight?
Yeah, no, well, again, I think it'll be a make and model thing, but they're not, some people, in early days, people would talk to me about, they would sort of equate the battery in an electric vehicle to the 12-volt battery that's in like every car around. And that battery, that 12-volt battery, tends to need to be replaced every 3 years or so. That is not the case with the main battery of an electric vehicle. Most, if not all that I'm aware of, have at least an 8-year, 100,000 mile or 80,000 mile warranty. So if it's not operating properly within that time period, they'll switch it out for you. And past that, I mean, like I said, there are some EVs out there that have 500,000 miles on them. So it's not something, it's like when I buy a car, I'm not worried about what it's going to cost me to change the engine when the engine is too old or have it rebuilt or whatever. It's the same thing with the battery of an electric vehicle. That's how I look at it.
I still don't have the question though. I mean, I
Oh.
still have the answer. When the battery can no longer get a charge, what do you do with it? Can you replace?
Yeah, I think it will depend on the vehicle. Some of them will be replaceable. I think others will not be replaceable.
So that means the vehicle is no longer available to operate.
But yeah, the battery will probably last longer than the body of the car, however.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. And thank you, Joyce, for your presentation. Like I said, there were a lot of questions in the chat. I don't know if they can contact you, Joyce, or if they had, if they wanted more answers to their questions, or is there an email, or would it be best if they join a Facebook resource or
Yeah, can you see that? Wait a minute.
Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah, there's my email address. Feel free to email me. I answer questions on this stuff all the time.
Okay.
And another,
it's a little small, Joyce.
Oh,
I can
okay.
put it in the chat real quick.
Let me see if I can make that bigger. Is that better? A little better?
It's a little better, but I'm gonna put it in the chat also.
Okay.
So it's Joyce at Poolesville.
Right, Poolesville.green.
Okay, thank you.
Another great resource is this monthly Zoom, this Ask an EV Owner. If you go to evadc.org, and I'm often on these calls, they have a monthly, first Wednesday of every month in the evening for an hour or two. there's a group of EV owners who answer questions, and these are owners of various makes and models. So if you're in the market and you want to ask questions, I'm thinking about this model or that model, there's a good chance that there'll be two EV owners in that group that can answer your questions specific about those models. So that's a great resource as well.
And I also added that website in the chat also. So great. Well, this was wonderful. Thank you, Joyce, for your time today and educating us on electric vehicles. There is a lot of interest, that's for sure. And I know a lot of people had questions, and you can contact Joyce at Poolesville.green. And she can answer any of the other questions that we weren't able to get to today. And then also we are recording this, so it will become available on YouTube. And also, if you subscribe to the Montgomery County newsletter, it would also be listed in there where you can go view the YouTube video. So if you're not already a subscriber to the newsletter, I would encourage you to go to the website, and I can post it in the chat real quick. Just give me 1 second here, and I can post the newsletter link in the chat, and then you can click on that and sign up for the newsletter so you can get the information in regards to the when the recording will become available. Here, let's see, didn't quite take it there. Let me see. And okay, it's there now. So again, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Joyce. Very informative. And we hope to see you guys again on next lectures, and everyone have a wonderful day and stay safe.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was awesome, Joyce.
Thanks. I was like, oh God, I think I'm talking too fast, but hopefully it was okay.
No, it was good.
Is Noah still on? I can't see him.
I think he had to run to another meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you.
You're
Sure.
welcome.
I'm gonna get going unless you have something else you want to cover.
Thank you, everyone.
Take
Thank
care.
you, Joyce. Bye-bye.
Take care, Wanda. Thanks for moderating there.
Oh, no
Appreciate that.
problem. You're
Bye-bye.
welcome. Great presentation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.